Welcome back to Top 5 Auto Repairs. How do you know you have a bad flex plate? The flex plate is mounted right behind the crankshaft flange, and its main purpose is to transmit power from the engine to the transmission. It also contains a ring gear where the starter meshes against the ring gear, and it causes the crankshaft to rotate during startup. So again, the flex plate is mounted over here, and the torque converter bolts go over here. And basically, the alignment between from the crankshaft flange to the flex plate to the torque converter and to the transmission is never perfect. There's going to be a slight misalignment, but you can't really tell. That's why this flex plate is allowed to flex a little bit to make up for that misalignment. So when there's a crack on the flex plate due to extreme stress on the flex plate, or when the flex plate become distorted, or when the ring gear teeth start to become worn, or when the flex plate bolt become loose, either on the crankshaft flange or on the torque converter, driver is going to notice all sorts of symptoms. So when the flex plate is broken or is cracked, driver is going to notice strange sound. For example, it's going to sound like the engine have bad rod bearings or bad main bearings, or it's going to sound like a fan with broken fan blades, and it's going to make a grinding noise at startup. Because you see this ring gear right here, if this ring gear teeth are completely worn, it will not mesh properly with the starter gears, and it will cause that grinding noise at startup. Or if the flex plate is broken, let's just say a piece broke off or something, you're going to hear a rumbling noise. And if these bolts are loose because maybe it wasn't tightened all the way, and same right here on the torque converter, if it wasn't tightened all the way, simply because maybe you changed the transmission or you swapped an engine and so on, this is going to cause a chattering noise when these bolts become loose. I noticed something strange about this flex plate. There's only 1, 2, 3, and 4 bolts for the torque converter. That means if one bolt's become loose, there's a very high chance this is going to wobble. From my experience, most torque converter bolts, there's probably like 5, 6, 7, or 8, and some I even seen 10 bolts on there. The more bolts you have, the more the flex plate will be stable. That got me thinking, if there's only 1, 2, 3, and 4 bolts, maybe this flex plate was designed to fail prematurely. Because from my experience, the more bolts you have, the more stable it will be. If you have cracks in your flex plate, or it is broken, or it is extremely distorted, this is going to cause a strong vibration at idle and while driving. There are a lot of reasons why flex plates go bad. Number one is because you see the starter here? That's the starter gear. If this starter gear is worn, it's going to cause this ring gear on the flex plate to wear out as well. If the starter is not properly mounted, this is going to cause a lot of stress on the flex plate at startup, and it can cause the center part over here to become weak and eventually crack. Most times, flex plate do not fail on their own unless it is defective in some ways. Most time when flex plate fails is because either the bolt is not tightened all the way, or when you install the starter and it is misaligned, it's going to cause stress on the flex plate. You can have a bad engine that's maybe failing and it's causing intense vibration, and it causes flex plate to flex too much and break. You can also have a bad transmission. Maybe there's something wrong with the torque converter, and so on. If you got a bad flex plate, you must remove the transmission to change the flex plate. You cannot just change it just like that, because it doesn't work like that. The transmission must be removed. And when installing the flex plate, make sure you don't have the flex plate installed backward. I always look at these You see this marking right here, the round part right there? That's how you know that part is going to be facing out. That's where the bolts goes in. Also, when you're tightening the bolts, make sure you don't make it too tight, because if you over tighten it, again, this can actually damage the flex plate. If your engine sounds like you got bad rod bearings or bad main bearings, maybe you got a bad flex plate and you should inspect it before rebuilding your engine. To inspect the flex plate is very simple. All you need to do is remove the starter, and you can see the flex plate that way, and you could turn the crankshaft, or there's going to be a little cover on the bottom end of the engine. You can also remove that, and you can view the flex plate that way as well. I hope you found this video useful. As always, thank you for watching, and subscribe to Top 5 Auto Repairs.